Chic West Podcast is heart-opening dialogues for self-identified women on a Chic West, a movement moving forward, striving to live aware, bold, and whole. Welcome. Okay, hi Chic West, and welcome to Season 2 of Chic West Podcast Guest Series. I'm your host, Estelle Thompson, and this first month of podcast shows is titled In the Flow, How Moving with Your Menstrual Cycle Can Empower Your Relationship with Yourself and Your Life. This is such an important series of podcasts because I believe women are not getting the support they need when it comes to knowledge beyond the mechanical aspects of their periods. This month, we explore and dive deep in the magic. Yes, I said the magic of your menstrual cycle and body rhythms because it's there. I wanted this series to be a flashlight into the holistic and soulful world of women's health. I have a sweet solo podcast about my own she story when it comes to my hurdles with my cycles, and hint, hint, Chic West, when I started to tap into the wild power of my period, it was a game changer. Today's episode is titled Moving with Your Cycle with Abi Adams. Abi uses movement, menstrual cycle awareness, and holistic practices to guide women through challenging moments in their lives so that they can be present, live well, and unleash their potential. She cultivates personal growth, emotional development, and equips her clients with the tools they need for change using a blend of yoga, kinesiology, bioenergy, physical movement. She works on an intimate level with each client, harnessing the power of motion to transform their thinking and empower their lives. And I'm just so excited, so thrilled to have Abi on the show here, right from London. Yay! Hi.
Yay! Hello, my darling. Lovely to be talking with you.
Oh my goodness, I'm so happy to have you. And so here, my first question in all my show is I ask, because Chic West, we strive to live aware and bold and whole. I ask my guests, what makes you feel alive today, Abi? So what makes you feel alive?
Oh my gosh, the sunshine. It's glorious here at the moment. But I was able to move my body earlier today and it's just sparked this inspiration. Movement always does this to me. When I move my body and I move it to inspirational music, music really is this wonderful tool for me that gets me going and inquiring into what's happening with me today. Where am I holding tension? Where am I flowing freely? What's going on with me? So, yeah.
Oh, I feel the same way about both moving and music. There's something
Okay.
about music, like there's a soul to every song, and I just,
Well,
yeah, oh my God, we'll have to share playlists.
definitely.
Amazing. So before we dive deep in our subject, and I really brought you in with, this idea of owning in on, this idea of moving with your cycle. But I'd love for us to know about you and your personal background, professional background. And here at Chic West, we call it like my she story, kind of your she story, who you are in a nutshell, your cultural upbringing, and kind of, I guess, for the specific of this course too, how you came to be an expert in menstrual cycle health.
Sure. So my journey started a long time ago. I trained to be a masseuse, and then I got into teaching yoga. I just had this conversation with someone else actually about really getting into yoga was a way of me escaping because at the time I wasn't happy in my job. I was still carrying a lot of trauma from my childhood. There was a lot of drink and drugs and self sabotage involved. My body wasn't a comfortable place to be, and my menstrual cycles were incredibly painful and incredibly heavy. And I just thought that was the norm. So I studied yoga And whenever I taught, it never felt comfortable for me. There was always something a little bit missing. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't quite there for me. And then through personal experiences at the end of 2016, we kind of had what would you call it? A tsunami of experiences wash over me and my family. One was where my 37-year-old cousin died of a brain hemorrhage. She was found on the kitchen floor.
Oh.
And I had a miscarriage on her funeral. My mum got skin cancer, and my husband lost his oldest friend. He was found dead in his flat from a virus, and all of these things came together. And you put that plastic smile on, which I think women and men do very well because. Especially in England, stiff upper lip, keep going, don't show your emotions. But I began to crack, and this crack started to affect my relationship with my husband. And so I went off and studied mixed movement for a month in Miami with Budokan. And it was a game changer because I moved my body in ways I had never moved before for long periods of time throughout the day. And I understood my potential. I understood my power, but I also understood my addictions. And this then led me into wanting to go even deeper into my body. And I began to explore the menstrual cycle and how the magic within the menstrual cycle, from placing movement as food. And for me, movement is just as important as the food you put into your mouth. And by using certain movements at certain times of my period, I felt even more satisfied, more connected, more able to communicate with life. And it just changed the dynamics of who I was, but more so the way I was communicating with myself enables me to communicate with life and others around me. But the relationship with me. I've moved my body for many years now in various forms, and the movement never gave me this great relationship with my body. It was always, this part's still a little bit too fat, this part doesn't work this great, this part's, there was always a little bit of a negative. And then when I understood my menstrual cycle, I just fell in love with my body. And I realised that this body is beautiful the way that it is. I don't need to move it to change it. I move it to feed it. So I hope that answered your question.
Oh my God. I just love talking to you so much. I can hear you all day. Let's go back because your story is just out of this world, like this tsunami of events that it's happened to you. Where you must have been in shock for how, from the time that all this happened to you to the time you took your mixed movement training, like what was going on. Can you talk to us a bit about that? Is that okay?
Yeah, definitely. When I received the phone call from my aunt to tell me that Rachel had passed, and this woman was influential in me becoming a woman. She showed me the bright lights of real life. My mum and my dad kind of kept me a little bit in cotton wool, and my cousin just showed me what life was like, and she was an inspiration to me, really. She was so strong. And when I heard those words, it was unbelievable. It was almost like I crumbled like flour, just crumbled. And it was just a really emotional time, this sense of loss. You look at it as well because you appreciate that this could happen to you. You could leave behind your family. She left behind 3 small children. And then I found out, so it was actually a day after I found out that I was pregnant. And I'll be honest with you, I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it. I felt very alone. It just knocked me off my feet. Surprisingly, because although we was very close, when we was growing up, we hadn't seen each other for a while. Although I'm so pleased I got to see her 6 months before she passed for a family get together. But so coming into being pregnant, it just didn't feel right. It just didn't feel right. And when I had the miscarriage, it started on her funeral and then really kicked in the day after. I I don't know whether many other women would do this, but going through it, I was still thinking of going to work the next day. How can I go to work the next day? Because I wasn't dealing with the situation. I wasn't in the moment. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to feel it. I wasn't communicating. And that the day after that, or 2 days after, I went straight back to work. And you know it wasn't an easy miscarriage either. This kind of went on for about 2 weeks, this miscarriage, in and out of hospital, and still I'm working, and still I've got that plastic smile on my face, and that plastic feeling just began to sink deeper and deeper into my soul, and I began to become emotional. And then when you become emotional, well, from my own personal experience, you begin to think things, and you make those thoughts a reality. And this started to affect my relationship with my husband. I didn't want to be here with my young son and my husband. I felt like I was like the world was caving in on me, and I did not know what to do. And so this is when I took that opportunity to step out of my own chaos, because it was all my own chaos, and just move my body. And it's a big difference between the way I used to deal with things, because a similar situation like this before was when I was trying to leave the work that I was so unhappy with, and again could have really ruined my relationship with my now husband. But back then it was all about drinking and drugs, and I knew I'd turn a corner because I chose to send myself away to an environment that got me to move. It didn't encourage me to get drunk or get high. It was move your body, sort your life out. And, it did exactly what it said on the tin. And I came back from that. And even my husband said it was the best thing you'd ever done.
Yeah, people around notice the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all this, because I mean, just as the work that I do, like bulk of us are disconnected from our own limbs,
Yeah.
And the connection we have, you cannot process traumatic events like this simply on a rational level, because you'll never make sense of it, and it'll just go round and round and round. And to bring it down, like lower, like down to, below the neck, which is essentially what you've done. And now, you help women, move through their own pain, I gather.
Yes, exactly. Women come to me and they're out of sorts. They're just not in the body. And I feel that these women that I move with now, they've done everything. That we've done every exercise you can think of. We've done every trend of health and well-being that's been out there. And we're at this point where we're like, well, what now? Because no one's ever given us the opportunity until this point to go in and learn our unique rhythm, which is our menstrual cycle.
I know. I felt so robbed when somebody told me about the inner seasons and how can I could plan around my cycle. I was like, could somebody have told me that earlier? Because
I know.
I just had I almost had to grieve that. I was like, I wish I had known. And it's partly why I'm bringing this to light, because we need more women that know how to move with their cycles. And it's a language, it's their own language, right? Like you can't be like, well, on day one, you do that. And on day, because that would be too easy. And that, I feel that's what we want most of the time, right? But
exactly.
So
you know what? I wish that, like you just said, someone had come into my school and had taught me this over geography. You know, this would have served me way better than geography. And I also feel that if young women can get this at the start of their menstrual cycle, we're talking about women understanding the art of work, rest, and play, so that when it comes to the rest, they don't feel guilty.
Yeah.
Because we have so much guilt around not doing anything when we need to. And, we're talking about on your menstrual cycle, even if it's just for the first day of not doing anything, of not holding that responsibility to maintain and contain for other people, only for ourselves, it would be a game changer. It would be an absolute game changer. I feel that women would be able to go into work and say to their bosses, my menstrual cycle is starting in 3 days' time. I'd like to work from home then. That it would be phenomenal. And we would have no guilt about that because we understand our power.
I agree so wholeheartedly. And I speak about this in the solo podcast, just about rest, and how that changed everything for me. It just lessened my symptoms as well, like cramping. I mean, it was unbelievable just because I took a day of rest. But I had to voice that, right? Like I had, and that was like a big frontier for me to be like, no, today I need, like, to my family, to everyone. And you must experience this. Like, tell us a bit, let's break it down. Like when somebody comes to you and like, how do you go about developing this language of, intuition and all of it? Do you want to share that with us?
When I work with a woman or a group of women, we want to understand our flow. So for those out there that are still a bit unsure or have not heard of this, we have the seasons within our cycle. So your menstruation is your inner winter. Now the days vary for everyone, and this is the beauty of the cycle, because it's not the same. The days aren't the same. It varies for everyone. Okay, so this is just a rough guide, and I always like to thank the Red Skull for their wisdom and knowledge, which
They're amazing. Just incredible what they do. Yeah.
Shani and Alexandra, wonderful women sharing some great work out there. But under the Red Skull, the inner winter is a time of detachment, inner connection, acceptance, forgiveness, inner guidance, and instructions. These are the ones that stand out for me in my cycle. It might be different for others. And this is a time where you rest. So from days 27 to 5, and this is what I say to the women, it's like preparing for something. You wouldn't go on stage to act out an hour's play without reading your lines. When you're coming up to your menstruation, you're not going to be doing a CrossFit class every single day up until your first day of bleeding and then go, I'm going to rest now. We're talking about supporting and flowing. So perhaps the 3 days before, 2 days before your bleed, we just start to slow down and we change our movement from a strength-based plan to more yoga and meditation, breathing, walking, whatever fits you and makes you feel good. So in our menstruation, if we can just get one day, that first day of bleed, to rest. And I think this is one of the trickiest things, because the first day of your period is going to serve the entire cycle. And it's all well and good, and I've done this, of, yeah, I will rest. And you sit down, but inside you are kicking off. And the guilt and the shame, and you're thinking and you're feeling you should be doing this and da 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 da. It's not as easy as just saying, and rest. We have to understand why you're not resting. Once we've gone through that, this starts to become so much more easier. So you're slower in your inner winter. There's the yoga, there's the walking, maybe. There might be nothing. There might be just meditation. We then start to rise. So now from the first day of your period, your estrogen is starting to rise. So you can feel more energetic immediately on your day one. But just because we have it doesn't mean we've got to spend it. As we come up into our spring, this is when the estrogen is really bubbling up and we become more curious, playful, motivated, and positive. So we come from this gentle place of inner winter, of quite slow and thoughtful. And like I said, we've got the yoga, the walking, the meditation, Tai Chi maybe. Now we come up into spring. For me, I love it's like I said, it's a time of playfulness. So it's a great time to do something you've never done before. So dancing, any form of dancing, zumbas and things like that. It's a really nice thing to do. We then come up to our summer, and this is where your power's at. Before you go past ovulation, this is your outward focus, your visibility, you're taking charge, you know, your magnetism and attraction. I love this because at this point, this is when your hormones actually make your facial features more symmetrical for you to attract a mate. I love that. This is when, when you're working out and you just look so hot.
I know this is like, oh, hello. I'm a sexy person who's looking at me.
I know, I'm sweating exactly like I did 3 days before, and no one looked at me then. What's happened? But that's why. So this is where your power's at, and you can do anything. So from your inner spring, so from winter to summer, this is your follicular stage. But we don't want to be running as fast as we can in that inner winter. I always suggest taking it slow until you've come out of your bleed and then start to empower your movement. At this time, because of the rise in estrogen, your metabolism's changing. So you are building muscle. So this is where you want to focus on that power and using that power. So you've got your weight training. This is fabulous, especially as you come up near to your summer. But because in spring it's all about curiosity, it's a great time to try something new. Perhaps rock climbing, like I said, the dancing, whatever works for you. When we go past summer and we enter into our autumn, this is a time where where it's increased fat burning. So things like swimming, which is great. I love calisthenics. I just love body weight training because as well, especially as you go deeper into your autumn and you're coming nearer your inner winter, women's balance can be off. You can feel a bit wobbly on your feet as these plummeting hormones, this estrogen drop and the rise in progesterone just changes your perspective. The autumn for us is really a time of saying no, of completion, holding tension, and the inner critic. And I love it because people always say, what does holding tension mean? And it's those emotions that come up. There's going to be emotions that start to rise because this is a time of reflection. So we want to remain in our power. And something that I found out personally for myself was when I stopped moving too soon in my luteal phase, when I slowed down too quickly, I became very overwhelmed. I became very emotional, and that was because I have a very strong body. So for me to slow down too quickly in my luteal phase, my inner autumn, did nothing for me. I still had energy to use. So for me, I could still do my martial arts. I could still do my boxing. I focused more on my core-based practices through yoga, which saw all of that anxiety and emotional rushing up into my head come back down again. I really am a champion of focusing on the core later on in your inner autumn for mental and emotional balance. It makes such a difference. And then you can flow into your inner winter and you're back into that softer side of yourself and rest. So you can see there is this amazing opportunity of adventure, I would call it, as you go round your cycle. We don't have to do everything in one day, and I feel that's why women get so overwhelmed and so bogged down, because let's face it, we are capable of achieving anything. We are so powerful, but because we think we have to put everything into one day, it all becomes too much. And understanding your cycle gives you the opportunity to focus on one thing in each of your phases. And it's just amazing. That's where the magic is.
It is, and it's perfect because it's so fascinating. It's all of this. It opens you up to a whole other world, and when I learned about that, like it made sense. It like literally landed in me, and like I understood, but not like on a deeper level. And I
Mm.
hope it does this to all the women listening. I think I have strong hope. Hey there, interrupting this incredibly heart opening episode to let you know about my new art channel. If you're listening to this podcast as a SheQuest member, this feature is included in the membership sisterhood community. Yay! More than 21 days of mindful art classes and curated topics for each class, such as 21 days of birds and butterfly, 21 days of love and loss, 21 days of women in power, and so on. Classes and programs are being uploaded on a monthly basis. If you aren't part of the membership and would like to try the art channel, this option is now available. Use the coupon SHEART, that's SHEART, all big letters, to get 1 month free. And tell the women and men you know and love about this stunning opportunity to develop a home art practice. SheQuest membership doors will open again in January. But until then, enjoy my art channel and say yes to creative living, yes to showing up, and yes to connection. Now back to our ever expanding conversation. And that basically lends in my next question, which is, to like reframe. I feel there's so much shame and humiliation around like you've talked a little bit about like, hiding, like our work doesn't know, like nobody knows, like we have like nobody, we just like go on our lives, and it's like a big thing when you go through, whether you bleed or throughout the cycle. And how do you how have you for yourself like reframe that? Like for example, like I know when I understood about the season and mostly PMS, because I used to have terrible just PMS, cramping and just moodiness. And when I realized it was a time for me, like it was like inner autumn, and I was like letting things go and I could say no. It changed everything for me. And now I kind of look forward to PMS. Like, it like reframed everything because like I understood my body in like a deeper term. Do you see what I mean? Like, do you want to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. These messages, these signals that we receive, I don't know how we have turned them into a negative, but we have, and they don't have to be. And it's purely by giving ourselves the space to do this. And you bring up the in autumn. I am a summer girl. I love being out there socializing. And as I started to chart, I realized that to leave my inner summer was quite a scary thing for me. Because to not be social, to not have lots of people around me, left this big void that I've always been taught you had to fill. And so on my days 21, I began to see my addictions rise up. It was a phenomenal experience. On day 21, I would phone my husband, and I've got this all down in my journals. I would phone my husband and tell him to bring me home a bottle of red wine. Now, if he was in a good mood, he'd bring home 2, and I would drink 2 bottles of red wine because I just felt the world was overwhelming me. I felt I wasn't successful. I felt that I was failing. Oh my gosh, everything you could think of, I was thinking. And what I realized was my body didn't want to leave the summer. The only way it knew for me to slow down, because it knew I had to slow down, was to drink. digging deeper within this, what I then realized was either side of your cycle, so from the rising of your inner winter up to summer of ovulation, this is your power of yes. From ovulation down to inner winter, you've got your power of no. I was not fulfilling in my power of yes. I wasn't being my most powerful because I was still being powerful for other people's thoughts and feelings. I hope that makes sense. I was still doing things that I thought I should be doing, not what I truly wanted to be doing. And so when I came into the power of no part of my cycle, my body was like, whoa, hang on a minute. You haven't completed. You haven't finished. And so this flower was only halfway bloomed, and then it was expected to die off and come back through the other side of the cycle. And my body was like, I don't want to do this. I'm not ready to do this. I still have a lot of power left within me. And so I understood why I needed alcohol at that specific day. It was always day 21, that specific day. And also going deeper into that, my sensitivity to the drop in estrogen. This is a time when you can feel like life is just failing if you are very sensitive to that estrogen drop.
Amazing. I never knew about this, the power of yes and the power of no during the cycle. So that's really enlightening, Abby. Thank you so much. And you mentioned a little bit about journaling, and this is the tip of the month to start kind of tracking our periods, but and also this show is really about I love something that inspires me the most is like knowing your own self-exploration tool for personal growth. And you've mentioned quite a bit, like you love to dance and tai chi, but I'm wondering if you could share some like your own favorite tools for self-growth, and your rituals, and perhaps because we're talking so much about our monthly cycle, perhaps surrounding that, like ways you ground yourself. And you've talked a lot too about self-awareness, which I love. Like, once you knew it was like day 21, like you could have known that if you hadn't journal.
No way. Yeah, journaling, I go through phases of journaling. For me, my main tools, I've got shamanism within my practice, so sound therapy for me is so important. I've got my drum, I've got my singing bowls, I've got my tuning fork, and I love working on the energy around me, just clearing that when it feels like really clogged up. I also love art, painting, and I dance and I get the energy up, and then I get a huge canvas and I get my hands in paint, and I will just create some art just through the combination of movement and getting on the canvas, which I love. And your artistic streak comes out really well for me, especially in my week 4 before I come on my bleed. I love getting the paints out then. It's a great time to get creative in your cycle.
See, I'm most creative in my inner summer. And even like if I look at just a year, like not just my cycle, but like spring and summer. I mean, sometime fall, but it's like I'm like really prolific. Like I just keep on creating. But again, like I didn't know that. Like, and sometimes I would push myself, being a visual artist by trade, I would like push myself to make something in like the dead of winter. And I was like, what's going on? Like, you know? But now that I know, it's like, it's open so much more. And
don't you think this is the beauty of the menstrual cycle? We stop pushing ourselves. There's an element of challenge, and I feel that mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, you need challenge for growth. This is what life's about. The experiences that come to you are there to allow you to grow. But there's a difference between, I think, modern society's pushing and our natural challenges of life. Does that make sense?
Like, yeah. And also this as aspect too, to like, I feel we're working for society. Can we switch things around here and like make it like voice,
Yeah.
like almost have a voice like there's a great story at one of my retreats in France. One of the girls, it was it's such a powerful story where she was tired to do the walk of shame back to her desk, or like, like bring the pad, like, so she just, and she, she has like a desk job. So she just brought like a basket with like pads and tampons, like in the toilet stall. And she was like, I'm
Yeah.
done. Like, I'm done doing that walk. Like, I'm done hiding. This is
Yeah.
stupid. And all the women in the office like went to her and just thanked her. Like this,
Oh,
but you know what I mean? And
amazing.
that's what I mean by like, can we just make it work for us? Like, and in
Yeah,
that way,
I
it
hear you.
doesn't have to be like, and one of my other guests in the podcast, she said, it doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah, it doesn't. This is what I'm talking about with regards to once you understand your menstrual cycle, you are communicating as a CEO. Yeah, you are on it. You are owning it. You're in the flow. You understand. So when you are communicating from that level with yourself, imagine how you can communicate with others in life. It's phenomenal. And you speak about your clients. There was one specific client that stands out a lot to me. She was told that she had bipolar and she was given medication, and this will have to be an ongoing thing. And she came to just one of my workshops, and she realized that she was actually overspending in her menstruation, her inner winter, and that by changing that, by taking in rest, she became less emotional and she was able to reduce her medication. She wasn't bipolar, she was just so bloody tired that it was affecting every part of her cycle thereafter. I find it phenomenal. It's very easy to take a pill. And, when you don't have the support and education, of course, that's what you're going to take because you don't know any different. But the exploration into your menstrual cycle gives you an understanding of what is going on. What do I need? What do I really need? And then setting up that
Exactly.
foundation.
And to see that as an opportunity, now it's like, what a gift we have that every month we get to like be anew, like every month we get to shed what we don't need and to start anew, and to have these, yeah, it's to reframe it as like a blessing, like what a blessing. I bleed every month. Like, you know,
Yeah.
instead
I
of like, I
always,
feel I was taught to be like, I don't know, and maybe I wasn't taught that. Maybe it's just like what I picked up was like, shame, and I'm not, uncomfortable, but it really
mm,
doesn't have to be that way. Oh, I could talk to you all day. I just
mm,
I just have little quick questions
mm.
for you, just personally.
Yeah.
I want to know if you have a favorite mantra.
Favorite mantra. Well, I've got I've got two, I suppose. I've got one modern one, which is from Cameron Shane, who was my teacher, who runs Budokan, and that is the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And it is done. I live by that now. I live by that. And the one that when it comes to chanting is the Ganesh one, Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. I love that. Just breaking down all that old stuff, releasing it, letting it go. So I've got my ancient and my more modern one. So those are the two that I kind of always bounce back and forward to.
Love it. What about a favorite
Mm.
flower?
Oh, my favourite flower is peony. Yeah, love peony.
And what about perhaps a favorite book that you've read? And perhaps it's a book that would be related to moving with our cycles.
Do you know, I feel that we're still, there's not been a book published as yet that I've found that supports the movement with the cycle. But the books that I do love are, like we said earlier, was The Wild Power by Alexandra Pope and Shani Wurlitzer. They are the two women that run the Red School. I love Gabrielle Lichterman's 28 Days. And one of my teacher, Anadea Judith, Eastern Body, Western Mind. I mean, just a phenomenal book on your personal energy and emotional reactions to life. Really, those are my go-to book. And sorry, how could I forget Women That Run with the Wolves?
Yes.
Oh my goodness,
That's like such a classic.
Transformational, yeah, awesome book.
Amazing. And do you like yoga or running better, or a bit of both, or do you even tell me about what kind of workouts do you do?
Oh, so for me, I love mobility, which is playing around with animal locomotion and contemporary dance, just seeing what the body can do and go. I love calisthenics. I love strengthening my body and supporting my body. And I love martial arts and capoeira. So they're kind of like my go-to ones that I use to support my cycle and my mental, emotional, physical self.
Amazing. And coffee or wine?
Coffee, most definitely coffee.
Not tea,
Love
Abby? Not tea?
You know what? I'm at the moment. I'm 7.5 months pregnant, so I have to.
How did you not tell us this?
Do you know what it is? It's because I get so excited when anyone wants to have a conversation about periods. I'm like, yay! And then I remember that I'm pregnant. No, I'm joking.
Well, I'm taking notes. We'll have to have you back, perhaps about pregnancy. I'd love to have you back for that now that you mentioned. And also sound. You've mentioned you do a lot with sound. So I'd love to have you back.
Sound is epic. I was recently with a friend of mine. I'm just trialing out this new massage that I've put together. And, I was holding singing bowls up of certain sound types, and she could feel this energy just release from her throat. She'd had an argument with her partner the day before, and it was still there. And the sound just helped clear it, which then got rid of her headache, which then got rid of her shoulder ache. It's amazing.
Oh, we are made of sound. The first thing that ever was a wavelength,
I know.
You forget. I'll have to have you back. I'm just like, you're like my new best friend here.
I love you. Same here.
Okay, last question. It's a bit of a loaded one, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. Knowing what you know about women's cycle now and what you've learned, what do you wish women to know most about their cycle?
That by moving with your cycle doesn't make you any less. It doesn't make you less powerful than a man. It makes you more equal. And that by moving with your cycle, you create the most amazing relationship with your body. And when you are relating to your own body and its needs, you can communicate with men on a more confident and empowered level, and with life. And that is what life is all about, I feel. We're just looking to resonate with each other. For me, I want us to step through the hashtag Me Too. I want it to be hashtag Everyone Unite, men and women. Whether you are in the workplace, whether you are in a partnership, we all need to be communicating from a place of honesty. And when a woman can say to a man in their relationship or at work, like I said before, I'm coming on my period in 2 days' time. I need to rest. I need to work from home half a day. And the man says, absolutely no problem. The world will be a changed place.
Yeah. Oh, so well put. So well put. Thank you so much for coming. Where can we find you, Abby, and how can we support you?
You can find me. My website is abiadams.co.uk. I am on social media as Abi Adams _MMA. Next year, I've got an exciting new initiative coming up called Project Woman, which will be all about deep immersions with regards to learning about your menstrual cycle, learning about the power of yes and no, releasing trauma from the womb, and getting couples together to on workshops to heal this divide. We meet our loved ones and we know that we're meant to be together forever, but sometimes life gets in the way and we allow our emotions to take hold, and all of a sudden we look at them in a different light. It's not that anything's changed, it's just that we've become emotional to something. And so these workshops are about, like I said, throughout all of our conversation, creating great communication, great relationships so we can feel empowered and confident.
Sounds wonderful. And it's called Project Women.
Project Woman, yeah, launching next year. But like I said, I'm on social media. I've got my internet page. But get in contact if you want to chat or talk or speak. I do online coaching as well. So if you would like to book in with that, I'm sure we can share my details after.
I've never been to London, so maybe I'd love to meet you in person. Yeah, and have tea with you.
That'd be awesome. It'd be great. And perhaps we can collaborate, my darling. It'd be awesome to share space with you.
Yes. Let's speak after the podcast. But I just want to tell you, I want to wish you good luck with, your pregnancy. What an auspicious time. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us and, widening our perspective on what it is to be a woman, modern, soulful woman today. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks, Abby.